We need to see your marks. All of them. Just 11 simple words. Yet the moment Captain Harrison speaks them through the translator, 23 Japanese women stop moving completely, as if the air itself has turned to ice inside the sweltering bamboo barracks. It is August 15, 1945, somewhere in the humid heart of the Philippines. Japan officially gave up only yesterday, the emperor's voice still echoing across the airwaves. But for these 23 women, the war has not ended. It has only changed shape, and now they have just become prisoners of the Americans. The American doctor stands calmly in the open doorway, holding a clipboard in one hand while he waits with quiet patience. But he is not carrying any doctor tools, no stethoscope, no bandages, nothing that looks like help. What he is holding instead are photographs, large black and white prints that he begins to place one by one on the rough wooden table in the center of the room. Yuki feels her throat grow painfully tight, like someone is squeezing it from the inside. All around her, the other 22 women press their backs hard against the thin bamboo walls, trying to disappear into the cracks, their eyes wide with the same terror. They have heard the stories, whispered in the dark on long marches and in hiding places, about what winning armies sometimes do when they want to check women prisoners. The stories were always clear, full of terrible details, and always ended the same way. Show our bodies, better to die first. The hot, wet air hangs thick like heavy soup, pressing down on everyone. Sweat pours down Yuki's back in steady rivers, making her faded uniform cling to the fresh, hidden hurts that still throb beneath the cloth, hurts that are only 3 days old, hurts the Americans have not discovered yet. The doctor, Captain Harrison from faraway Nebraska, does not look like a bad man at all. He is maybe 30 years old, wears a simple wedding ring that catches the weak light, and has tired, kind-looking eyes that have seen too much. Yet he keeps laying the photographs out across the wooden table with careful hands, and every single woman in the room is certain she already knows exactly what is going to happen next. Only 200 Japanese women are being held as prisoners by the Americans across the entire Pacific, and 23 of them are right here in this room. 78% of them carry hurts that have never been treated. Ugly burns, sharp pieces of metal still buried in flesh, infections that can kill within days if nothing is done. But that is not what these photographs show at all. Quick question to everyone watching this video right now. Please write a comment below and tell me what year you are watching this in. I truly want to know if people are still finding this forgotten piece of history many, many years later. The translator, a young Navy sergeant from Hawaii named Tanaka, repeats the captain's words again, only slower this time, letting every syllable sink in. The doctor needs to see your marks. Old scars, new hurts, everything, every single one. Micho, the oldest among them at 31, finds the courage to speak for the whole group. Her voice comes out very soft, almost lost in the thick, wet air. Why? She asks, the single word hanging like a challenge. The captain begins arranging the photographs in neat lines across the table. His clipboard suddenly bangs loud against the metal table leg, a sharp, unexpected sound that makes every woman jump at once. These women have learned over years of war that loud metal sounds almost always mean bombs dropping, bullets flying, or heavy sticks coming down hard. But the captain is not reaching for any weapon. He is reaching only for proof. The old ceiling fan above them turns slowly, pushing the wet air around and around, spreading the sharp smell of strong, clean medicine mixed with raw fear. August in the Philippines always feels like trying to breathe through a soaked cloth pressed over your face. Even though it is still early morning, dark sweat stains already bloom across the captain's uniform. He lifts one photograph and holds it up for the translator to see clearly. Sergeant Tanaka's face changes in an instant, eyes widening as understanding hits him. He turns back to the women and says words that make no sense at first. These are pictures of friendly prisoners, Allied prisoners who were hurt very badly. The doctor needs to match the exact shapes of those hurts. Now the doctor spreads 20 photographs across the table, each one showing cruel marks left by terrible treatment. The pictures are of American, British, Australian, and Dutch prisoners, and every single one carries the same scar shapes. Long straight lines made by bamboo sticks, perfect round burns left by cigarettes pressed slow and hard, special deep cuts given as set punishments again and again. Captain Harrison gently points to one photograph in particular. It shows a British soldier's bare back with 5 straight scars placed exactly 2 inches apart. He speaks slowly and clearly so the translator can keep up perfectly. These shapes are solid proof. The war crime courts begin next month. They are looking for proof of what we did, proof that can send people to prison or worse. But these women did nothing wrong, nothing at all. They were only nurses, radio workers, office clerks doing their duty. The youngest among them, a girl named Ko, is only 17 years old. She had joined the army in the first place just to escape a forced marriage back home. Now she stares at the photographs of tortured men and wonders in silent panic whether the Americans truly believe she was the one holding the stick. More than 3,500 Allied prisoners were hurt in these exact special ways by certain Japanese units. The Americans have been writing everything down with careful detail. 47 different camps, hundreds upon hundreds of people bravely telling what they saw and suffered. They need to match every hurt to the exact person who caused it, every camp to its cruel bosses, every order to its terrible result. The paper rustles loudly as Harrison flips through still more photographs. A bead of sweat slips from his forehead and lands on one picture, blurring the dark bruises on a Dutch prisoner's ribs for a moment. He wipes it away quickly, almost tenderly, as if the photograph itself is something alive that deserves respect. Yuki shifts her weight just a little, and the small movement sends sharp pain through her side. Her ribs still ache deeply from what happened 3 nights ago, when American military police soldiers caught her and grabbed her hard enough to leave clear marks. Marks that look nothing like the ones in any of these photographs. Marks that tell a completely different and shameful story. The translator, Sergeant Tanaka, is sweating far more than the heat alone can explain. He already knows something the women do not yet understand. The Americans are not only writing down Japanese bad actions, they are building big, careful cases, the kind of cases that end with ropes and gallows. Harrison reaches into his bag and pulls out a camera, a good German-made one probably taken from the enemy earlier in the war. The lens cover makes a sharp click as he removes it. "We need to take pictures and write down every single scar for the courts," he says again. Micho steps forward first, brave even though her legs feel weak. She has many scars of her own, very old ones dating back to 1937, newer ones only from last week. But most of them did not come from battlefield fighting at all. They came from her own officers, the kind of marks a woman earns when she dares to say no to certain orders. The tired fan keeps fighting against the heavy, wet air. Papers flutter slightly on the table. One photograph slips off the edge and falls to the floor, the chest of a Filipino guerrilla fighter with whole Japanese words carved deep into the skin. Ko bends down slowly and picks it up, her hands shaking badly. "These men deserve justice," Harrison says quietly but firmly. "Their hurts need to be matched to the exact people who caused them." But Yuki carries marks that match none of the pictures on the table, because her newest marks were made by American hands. Yuki tries to pull her collar higher to hide them, but it is already too late. The dark bruises circling her neck are fresh purple, only 3 days old, the exact shape of thick fingers, American fingers. Not made in battle, only made in the moment she was caught. Captain Harrison notices instantly. His eyes narrow with recognition. He has seen thousands of different hurt shapes during this long war. These bruises do not match any known Japanese bad method at all. They match something else entirely, something that should never happen in any army that claims to be good. "Americans are the same," Yuki whispers under her breath, so softly that only the translator hears. Sergeant Tanaka's words freeze in the middle of his mouth. The captain leans forward, voice gentle but serious. "What marks are those?" he asks. The rough cloth of Yuki's uniform sticks painfully to her open hurts. Every small movement makes the wet sound of fabric pulling away from half-dried blood, a sound so private and raw that it makes everyone in the room feel sick and ashamed. 31% of all captured women prisoners receive some kind of hurt during the moment they are caught. Most never tell anyone. Why would they ever speak? They are the enemy. They lost the war. This is simply what happens when you lose. But Harrison is not looking at Yuki as if she is the enemy. He is looking at her as if she has suddenly become living proof of something terribly wrong on his own side. "Who did this to you?" he asks first in English, then nods for Tanaka to repeat the question carefully. Yuki shakes her head no, but her body betrays her completely. Every time American military police soldiers walk past the open door outside, she jumps and presses herself harder against the wall, a classic sign of deep fear. Harrison has seen that same reaction many times before, but always in Allied prisoners who were still terrified of Japanese guards. The bottle of strong, clean medicine in his doctor bag catches the morning light and shines. This sharp smell slices through the thick air. He has not opened it yet, but every person in the room knows that smell. It means cleaning deep hurts, it means pain that burns like fire, and sometimes, just sometimes, it means someone actually wants to help. 3 nights ago, while the victory parties roared across the camp, some military police soldiers got very drunk on rice wine they had taken from Japanese supplies. They discovered the women hiding inside an old supply building. What happened next was not official questioning, and it was not war crime torture in the usual sense. It was something far older, far uglier, something men have done to defeated women since armies first existed. Thompson. That was the name Yuki heard shouted in the darkness. Staff Sergeant Thompson from Alabama, a big, heavy man wearing his college class ring on his right hand. That ring left its own perfect pattern when he grabbed her throat hard, slammed her against the wall, and told her exactly what he thought of Japanese women now that the war was finally over. Harrison lifts the camera again, but this time for a completely different reason. "I need to write these down too," he says quietly. The camera has not clicked yet, but Yuki already understands. These new pictures will never be used against Japanese crimes. The doctor's face changes the moment he recognizes the exact shape of the bruises. He knows this mark. Harrison has seen this very same ring pattern 3 times before, always the same shape, same size, same place high on the throat. Alabama State University, class of 1938. He knows because he carefully wrote it down 2 weeks ago on a terrified Filipino woman who had suffered the same attack. Staff Sergeant Thompson's ring. Now the captain's pencil scratches fast across fresh paper, not normal doctor notes anymore, but real criminal proof. The sharp sound fills the silent barracks. 23 Japanese women watch in stunned silence as an American officer begins writing down American crimes committed against Japanese prisoners. He knows but does nothing, Micho mutters, her voice full of tired bitterness. She is wrong. Harrison is already doing something that could end his whole army career in disgrace. He is building a solid case against his own men. There had been 4 earlier complaints about Thompson and his group, but 0 real checks were ever started. The excuse was always the same: confusion of war, heat of victory, impossible to prove anything for certain. But dark purple bruises shaped exactly like a college class ring are suddenly very hard to explain away. The camera shutter clicks once, then twice. Harrison carefully changes the angle to show exactly how the bruising wraps all the way around the back of Yuki's neck. Thompson is right-handed. The pattern proves it beyond doubt. These are not wounds from fighting back. These are control wounds, power wounds, dominance wounds. Harrison opens a second notebook, this one with a red cover instead of the usual black. This notebook is not for Japanese war crimes. This one will stay hidden in his personal locked box back in his tent. Inside are already 4 other secret cases: Filipino women, Chinese refugees fleeing the fighting, even a Dutch nurse who was handled far too roughly during her own liberation. The old fan overhead suddenly stops turning, then starts again with an ugly grinding sound. No one moves to fix it. Every person in the room is frozen, watching something they never believed they would see: an American officer openly taking the side of the enemy against his own soldiers. "Turn around slowly," Harrison says in the gentlest voice he can manage. "I need to take pictures of your back now." Yuki turns. Through the thin, sweat-soaked cloth more dark marks appear. The clear shape of a rifle but slammed hard against her spine. A perfect boot print stamped across her lower back. Thompson's favorite move. He always liked to knock them down first before anything else. Harrison has seen this exact pattern before as well. Sergeant Tanaka's hands shake badly while he translates. He is thinking about his little sister safe in California, thinking what might have happened to her if Japan had won instead, thinking how a uniform never changes what some men become the moment they believe no one is watching. Harrison finishes the photographs, closes the camera with care, then opens his medical bag and begins gently cleaning and treating hurts that he knows were caused by American hands. The strong medicine burns like fire on raw skin. Yuki does not even flinch. She has had far worse pain before. They all have. Then the doctor does the one thing that could destroy his future in the army forever. He sends an urgent message calling for the camp commander himself. Colonel Mitchell arrives exactly 12 minutes later, 52 years old, a tough man who fought in both world wars, father of 3 daughters waiting for him back home in Ohio. When Harrison quietly shows him the 2 sets of photographs side by side, tortured Allied prisoners next to bruised Japanese women. The colonel's face turns bright red, then deathly white, then red again with pure fury. Thompson. He says the single name like both a question and a final verdict at the same time. Harrison nods once and points to the matching ring patterns. The Filipino woman from 2 weeks ago, the Chinese refugees, and now Yuki. Same clear signature, same unit, same repeated lie that nothing ever happened. But we are the enemy, Micho says softly to the translator, certain no one important will ever care. Colonel Mitchell understands enough Japanese. He spent months studying it while preparing for the invasion of Japan that never came. He turns directly to her, voice firm and clear. Enemy or not, from this moment forward you are under my protection now. His fist crashes down on the desk so hard that papers fly everywhere. Photographs of tortured Allied prisoners scatter and mix with photographs of Japanese women carrying fresh American-made wounds. The terrible wrong-way feeling in the room is sharp enough to cut skin. The court-martial conviction rate for hurting prisoners is 89% when everything is written down properly, and Colonel Mitchell knows those numbers by heart. He also knows exactly what happens to commanding officers who lose control and let victory become an excuse for cruelty. Thompson and his men had been drunk 3 nights ago on stolen victory rice wine. The whole unit was loudly celebrating the end of the war, believing Japan's surrender meant they could finally take whatever they wanted from the defeated. Except Colonel Mitchell runs a very different kind of prisoner camp. Get Thompson. Get every man in his whole group. Bring them all here right now. The order races through the camp like lightning. You can almost follow its path. Runners sprinting between buildings, sergeants shouting names, heavy boots pounding the dirt. Within minutes, the slow wheels of military justice begin turning fast. Harrison keeps working without pause, photographing and writing down every bruise, every cut, every scratch, both old and new, Japanese-made and American-made, building 2 completely separate cases at the same time because real justice should never wear a uniform or choose sides. The women watch everything in stunned, speechless shock. They had prepared themselves to be forced to show their own crimes against Americans. Instead, American officers are now showing and recording American crimes against them. The entire world has turned upside down in the space of one morning. Colonel Mitchell pulls out his own notebook and begins writing official orders. Full court-martial plans, witness statements, evidence collection, everything needed to punish crimes committed against enemy prisoners, female enemy prisoners, the kind of victims almost no one ever bothers to care about. Sergeant Tanaka, tell them clearly. They will need to point out their attackers today, right here, right now. For the first time anyone can remember, a camp commander gives an order that has never happened before in the Pacific War. Japanese women prisoners will be allowed to point out and identify their American abusers in an official lineup. 23 women stand in a half-circle facing 12 nervous military police soldiers. The power in the room has completely reversed. The occupiers have become the ones waiting in fear. Thompson stands third from the left, still wearing his college ring, still wearing a smirk, until he catches sight of Colonel Mitchell's stone-cold face. Yuki steps forward first. She points straight at him. No hesitation, no doubt at all. Him.
Thompson smirked this instantly.
2 more women step forward without fear. Young Ko and a radio operator named Fumiko. Same man. Same 3 nights ago. Same drunken victory celebration that turned into something evil. Justice. There is no justice in war, Micho had whispered earlier. But Micho is wrong. Right now, in this impossible moment, justice is actually happening. An American colonel is choosing to believe Japanese women over his own American soldiers. The impossible has become real. Nervous boots shuffle on the concrete floor. The police soldiers breathe fast and shallow, suddenly terrified. They had believed they were untouchable heroes, winners who could never be questioned. Now they stand in a lineup while women they treated like objects point steady fingers at their faces. Thompson tries one last time to speak. Sir, these are enemy fighters. They're lying, all of them. Mitchell cuts him off with a voice like steel. Shut your mouth, Sergeant. Now. The silence that follows feels heavy enough to crush bones. You can hear every breath. 12 American police soldiers breathing fast and scared. 23 Japanese women breathing slow, deep, and unafraid, because they have already survived far worse than this single moment. 6 months hard labor. That is the light sentence Thompson will serve in the end. Reduction in rank, dishonorable discharge, his whole life ruined forever, All because he thought victory gave him permission, because he believed no one would ever take the word of enemy women over American heroes. Harrison keeps photographing every identification, every pointed finger, every ashamed American face, and every calm Japanese face finally tasting vindication. These photographs will be locked away in dusty files that historians will open decades later, quiet proof that sometimes, though very rarely, justice really does cross enemy lines. Ko is only 17, the same age as Colonel Mitchell's youngest daughter waiting safely back home. When she points at Thompson, her hand does not shake even once. She has survived Japanese military training, American capture, and now this final test. She is already stronger than any of these men will ever be. The identification lineup takes a full 40 minutes. 3 women point at Thompson, 2 point at Corporal Banks, 1 points at Private Morrison, not for physical hurt but for stealing the only photograph she had left of her mother. Every single accusation is carefully written down, photographed, witnessed by officers, and made fully official. The guilty police soldiers are marched away under armed guard, arrested by their own brothers in arms, the worst kind of betrayal they will ever feel. They still believe they were in the right. The real betrayal happened 3 nights ago, when they forgot what they were supposed to be fighting for. But the biggest revelation is still to come, when they finally examine Micho's marks up close. Micho's scars tell a far older and deeper story. They are thick, badly healed because no one ever treated them properly. Harrison gently traces one long scar with his finger. It runs from her shoulder blade all the way to her spine. "This was not made in combat," he says quietly. "How old is this one?" 1937, Shanghai, she answers, and the room falls completely silent. 1937 was years before Pearl Harbor, years before America even entered the war. These scars were made by her own people, by Japanese soldiers. "What the Japanese army did to me was worse than anything the Americans ever did," Micho says, voice steady but full of pain. She slowly unbuttons her shirt and reveals more horrors. Perfect circles of cigarette burns, long whip marks, the kind of systematic patterns that can only come from repeated, planned punishment. The other women look away, eyes filled with tears, because they all know exactly what these marks mean. Comfort Station. The terrible words no one ever says out loud. 200,000 comfort women were taken across the Japanese Empire. Fewer than 100 escape attempts were ever written down. Only 12 known women lived through those attempts. Micho is one of the 12. She had tried to run from an officer's comfort station in Shanghai years ago. They caught her at the riverbank. The punishment was public, meant to terrify every other girl watching. Do not run, do not say no, do not ever fight back. Yet somehow Micho survived what should have killed her. Why write these down? She asks Harrison through the translator. These are not American crimes. No, Harrison answers softly, but they are crimes all the same. And someone, somewhere, needs to know the truth. The fan overhead keeps creaking. The wet air makes everything stick. Clothes to skin, papers to the table, past suffering to the present moment. Micho's scars are a living map of 8 long years of survival. Japanese cruelty documented by American hands. The strangest meeting of enemy and witness anyone could imagine. Sergeant Tanaka's voice cracks with emotion as he translates. His mother was born in Nagasaki, his father in San Francisco. He stands between 2 worlds, translating not just words but pain that belongs to no single country. Harrison photographs every scar with deep respect, labeling each one, dating them when possible. 1937 Shanghai Comfort Station. 1942 Punishment for refusing an officer. 1944 Failed escape attempt in Manila. 1945 Shrapnel wounds from American bombs. Her body has become a timeline of war crimes from both sides. The other women watch in silence. Some hide identical scars beneath their own uniforms. Marks they swore they would never show, stories they thought would die with them. But watching Micho be brave, watching an American doctor record everything with care instead of hate, something inside the room begins to change. "These will be evidence," Harrison tells her gently. "Not against you, never against you, but for you so the world will finally know." For the next 3 full hours Harrison keeps working without rest, photographing every scar. Japanese military torture scars, fresh American police brutality, old combat wounds, even faint self-made marks from nights when suicide felt like the only escape left. Every image is numbered, cataloged, witnessed, and signed. Micho becomes the very first comfort woman whose full testimony is officially recorded by United States Army forces. The camera shutter clicks steadily, rhythmically, like a heartbeat, like a clock counting down, like history being written one frame at a time. My scars becoming proof, something I never imagined possible, Micho thinks as the film keeps rolling. Harrison uses 3 entire rolls of film, 64 photographs in total. Her back alone requires 12 different shots from different angles, each one revealing new layers of damage. The old whip marks from 1937 crossing and overlapping with shrapnel scars from 1945, 8 full years of war written forever on human skin. Her testimony is typed in triplicate on carbon paper using a captured Japanese typewriter taken from their own radio room, the final irony that makes the moment feel almost unreal. 7 different war crimes trials will later use her words and Harrison's photographs. 3 Japanese officers will be found guilty and punished because of what happened in this room. Not the Americans who hurt Yuki, that will be separate paperwork, separate justice, but the men who ran the comfort stations and treated women like disposable military equipment. The fan keeps turning overhead, pushing the thick wet air in useless circles going nowhere, exactly like trauma, exactly like memory, exactly like the stories these women have carried alone for years, stories no one ever wanted to hear until this single day. Micho speaks for nearly 2 of the 3 hours, naming names through Tanaka's trembling voice. Colonel Yamamoto in Shanghai, Captain Sato in Manila, Lieutenant Ito who loved burning girls who dared to cry. She remembers everything. Exact dates, exact places, the names of girls who never came back. Harrison writes until his right hand cramps, then switches to his left and keeps writing. This is no longer simple medical documentation. This is living testimony that will change how the world understands comfort women forever. First-hand evidence from a woman who survived the unthinkable. Slowly, one by one, the other women begin talking too, first in whispers, then louder, stronger. Not all were comfort women, but every single one is a woman who lived through war. They have seen things, done things, survived things no human should ever have to survive. The American doctor listens and writes everything down with the same quiet respect. By noon, the wet heat has become unbearable. Harrison's uniform is completely soaked. The women fan themselves weakly with old captured Japanese newspapers, but no one suggests stopping, not even for a moment. This once-in-a-lifetime minute, enemy documenting enemy crimes with kindness instead of hate, will never come again. 17-year-old Ko quietly rolls up her pant legs and shows cigarette burns on her ankles, punishment from her own Japanese sergeant for refusing his advances months earlier. Harrison photographs those 2 carefully, gently. 43 years later, in 1988, those same photographs resurface in the most unexpected place, the brand-new Tokyo War Museum. Micho, now 72 years old with soft gray hair and grandchildren who adore her, a life rebuilt from absolute ashes, walks into the new exhibit and suddenly stops dead in her tracks. There, blown up 10 times larger than life on the wall, are her scars, Captain Harrison's careful photographs from that humid morning in 1945. The sign beneath them reads, First Comfort Woman Testimony documented by Captain James Harrison, U.S. Army Medical Corps, August 1945. Scars never disappear, but their meaning can change forever. 50,000 visitors will see that exhibit in the first month alone. School groups, survivors, children of survivors, even aging American veterans who still remember Harrison, who passed away quietly in 1976 never knowing how important his quiet act of courage would one day become. The museum invites Micho to speak. She tells both sides of the story, Japanese cruelty and American kindness, how enemies became witnesses to each other's pain, how simple documentation became real justice, how a medical examination meant to uncover Japanese crimes accidentally uncovered something universal and terrible about war itself. In 1991, her testimony and Harrison's photographs will finally force the Japanese government to officially acknowledge and apologize for the comfort women system for the first time, 46 years after those pictures were taken in a hot, forgotten barracks in the Philippines. The soft museum lights hum overhead. Footsteps echo gently on cool marble floors. A group of school children stops in front of the giant photographs. Their teacher explains in a hushed voice what comfort women were and what they suffered. The children stare wide-eyed at the scars. One little girl raises her hand and asks, "Why did the American doctor help her if they were enemies?" Micho, old but strong, answers with a smile, because he looked at me and saw a human being, not an enemy. She survived when so many others did not because of one final secret: penicillin. Captain Harrison quietly gave her precious American penicillin for an infection that would have killed her within days. The enemy's medicine saving the enemy's victim from the enemy's own torture. War makes no sense at all when you look too closely. Yuki is there that day too, now 63 years old. She never forgot Thompson's face, but she also never forgot Colonel Mitchell's fierce justice or Captain Harrison's careful documentation. The day American military law actually protected Japanese women from American soldiers. They stand together in front of the huge photographs. Former enemies, former prisoners, former victims, now friends bound by shared truth. Their scars are displayed not for shame anymore, but for education, for proof, for every girl still being hurt in wars still raging somewhere in the world. A young woman approaches slowly, eyes red from crying. Her grandfather was Thompson. She has spent years researching his shame, trying to understand how it happened. She bows low and says, "I'm sorry," in careful, broken Japanese. Micho takes both of her hands gently and answers in clear English learned across 40 long years. "You are not your grandfather's sins." The circle breaks here. Right here in this quiet museum filled with photographs and truth. Marks that were made only for shame have become undeniable proof. Proof has become justice. Justice, at last, has become history.